Hey everyone, in this video I will be discussing a few tips and pieces of advice for writing your dissertation and also dealing with the stresses of writing a dissertation. I feel like the points are quite linked together, so keep watching if you are interested. I have actually very recently finished the whole dissertation process. I handed in my dissertation almost 2 weeks ago and the relief is just incredible. It did feel like quite a long process as you start your proposal kind of like the last term of second year, or I did anyway, and then you kind of work through it the entire third year. The first thing I would say is that it's not quite as scary as it first seems. At the start when you're doing the proposal it seems quite overwhelming and you're kind of thinking like, how am I ever going to write 10,000 words? I thought it was just a long essay as I'd never really heard about dissertation before, like actually done one or anything. It seems like a very scary prospect because you've never done it before, you've never written 10,000 words, you've never written a dissertation, you might have to actually go out and do research. I did for a social science degree and it just seems very daunting. Once you get into writing it and into the whole process, it's definitely not that scary. Everything is split into sections, so it's not just a long essay. Each section has like a word count that you can stick to. It's kind of split up into sizable chunks that you can manage. Everyone, or almost everyone, by the end wishes they had more than 10,000 words. Second thing is to research an area that interests you. You're working on it for such a long time, in such detail, in depth, intensely, and it's like what, maybe 12 to 15 months worth of work on this specific area. So find something that you enjoy, that interests you, and also I've kind of realised this, you might use in further education. The topic I did, I kind of just settled for it. I did perceptions on mentally disordered offenders. I wouldn't say I was like 100% interested in it. There was nothing else that I wanted to do. It's something that if I did further education I wouldn't use. If you know that you're going to go into further education, pick something that you could transfer into that. Another tip is to start early. Start doing your reading early, your general preparations. It sounds mad and crazy, but it saves you a lot of time in the long run. I started doing my reading for my lit review over the summer holidays, and that saved me so much time when I came back to uni in September because you've already got tons of reading done and prepared. Another thing with starting early is that if you're struggling with your idea, you can't find anything, you want to change your idea, you have plenty of time to do that because you've already done the research to realise that it might not work. You need to be confident and comfortable with your idea, know what you want to research, know what you want to find out, but there will always be tweaks along the way, but just stick with what you know is best and what you want to find out. But at the same time you do have to be original, you kind of have to be realistic with your idea, it has to be doable. You also need to be comfortable and confident with your supervisor. They're there to help you answer any of your questions. They've helped people write dissertations for years, so they should know what they're doing. What else have I written? They are there to criticise you. It should be constructive criticism. They're there to help your work be the best that it can be, so they will criticise where there's things need to be changed. You do have a limited amount of time with your supervisor or a limited amount of meetings. I would definitely suggest making the most use of them as you can. You're there paying for them. It's likely that you'll be put with a supervisor who has the most or somewhat some expertise within your topic or your area, as they'll have the best knowledge about what you're doing and then they can help you the best that they can. On the other hand though, if you feel that your supervisor is being detrimental to your dissertation and not being of any help, then you can ask to change. They don't normally let you just change for the sake of changing. If there's a serious reason to change, then they will let you. This is what happened to me. My supervisor was maybe not doing their job quite as well. Every other person that had them had the same problem. Early on in the process I kind of thought, no, I'm not dealing with this for the next 9 months. Asked to change and got changed to the best supervisor who I think kind of saved my dissertation. If you have any problems then definitely say something because your dissertation, you're paying for it, you don't need it to be ruined by somebody else's lack of work. One thing I found throughout the process is that you do kind of need to get used to all the technical terms and phrases. You might not need to use them in your writing, but they'll be appearing throughout the books and they can be confusing. Like mine, I was doing numerical and statistical tests, which I can't say, and there was words like chi-squares, Pearson tests. I've never done statistics before, I didn't know what those words meant and it was quite confusing. It did bug me for a long time. Get used to them, but not necessarily use them. It's also useful to research each section of a dissertation. Don't just start writing blankly, otherwise you kind of get stuck. There's so many books out there, not necessarily in your subject maybe, just general dissertation books which tell you what is needed in so much detail for every single section. They're so helpful to tell you the content of every single section. This is something vital, I think, if you're using computer programs, which I did. I had to use SPSS, and I think it's very, very useful and vital to practice them. When my supervisor said I needed to use SPSS, I was like, oh my god, what is that? Like, I'm not some kind of computer program genius. I didn't know what it was. I felt so panicked and thought, how am I going to get used to this? But it's actually very, very easy. There are so many books out there which tell you what the programs do, not even just SPSS. But what I found the most useful was actually watching YouTube videos. That was because I could watch the video and put what I was seeing to use. So I would just watch what they were doing and put it straight into practice, and I just practiced sort of using the program until I felt comfortable with it. Then I did all my like statistical tests or whatever. One thing that you might not be aware of, or it just depends on your university, is that they might have free downloads of the computer programs, but my uni gave like free downloads of SPSS. I can't even say it anymore. You don't have to like go into university, use their computers. You can just do it on your own laptop in your own time. Just practice, practice, practice. It might seem super complex at the start, but they're quite easy once you get the hang of it. I would say SPSS is actually easier than Excel. It does everything for you and it looks very, very professional. It's also another skill to put on the CV. I've seen quite a few jobs advertised that need computer program skills, so that's another one to have for the CV. One important thing I think is to not rush it, and that's probably said by every other lecturer in the world, but it really is important to not rush it. From my experience, I would say that that does make the whole process a lot easier and a lot less stressful because you're not putting so much pressure on yourself. I know that it's not always possible, or not everybody does that. It's up to everyone the pace that they work at, but I just found splitting it up, doing each piece at a time, working on it throughout the whole year, it wasn't stressful in the slightest for me. One thing throughout the process that I really struggled with, just due to my like anxiety things anyway, is don't ask how other people are doing. It's a massive panic trigger to compare your work to somebody else's. Everyone works at their own paces. Everybody's dissertation is different. It's individual to them. Everyone has a different supervisor. Everybody's dissertation process is slightly different. So it's really important to focus on your own work and not compare yourself to someone else, because that's when the panic kicks in, because you're thinking, have I done that? They've done that, but I haven't done that. I've not done that yet, but they have, and it's not necessary. Just focus on your work, focus on your pace, and if there's anything wrong, it's up to your supervisor to let you know. Many things will be cut out. It will be tough and it will be sad, but it's for the sake of your word count. When I kind of wrote everything, I was 3,000 words over limit, and I was really struggling to get it down, and I just took out an entire variable out of my dissertation and out of my question or hypotheses, and that's okay. If your question is still the same, if your argument is still the same and it's strong enough, then taking things out is perfectly fine. Editing, I think, is one of the hardest parts, because it's like you have to say goodbye to this hard work that you've done. It has to be done just for the word count, and it doesn't matter if you're just one word under the limit. As long as you're under the limit, it's fine. Just gotta say goodbye to those words. You've got to check and check again. Editing does take forever, but it is vital. One thing that I found useful was to leave it a few days and then come back to it, because your mind's a bit fresher and you really see if there's any spelling mistakes, any words that are wrong. Definitely have a few days away from it to come back again. Get somebody who has no knowledge on your topic to read it, because not only can they see any mistakes, if it makes sense to them and they understand it, then you know that you've written it well. I think it's important to understand and realise that it will never be perfect, which I know sounds so harsh and brutal, but out of the 10,000 words and all the other sections, there will always be some kind of mistake or something. It will just never be perfect. That is okay. You have to remember that it is just an undergraduate dissertation. You're not writing some kind of world-breaking, mind exploding masterpiece, it's an undergraduate dissertation. Before printing, make sure you have enough printing credit. I printed 2 copies of 85 pages in colour, and that is a hefty amount. And finally, once it's been handed in and it's out of your hands, out of your control, don't look at it, because if you look back at it, you might find some kind of mistake and there's nothing you can really do. Once it's been done, just don't look at it. It's done. Go and cry. Those are just some tips and little pieces of advice that I've picked up on the way or just got through the experience. If anyone has any other pieces of advice, please leave them down in the comments, as I'm sure there's many other pieces of tips and advice out there. Good luck if you are starting to write your dissertation or you're in the process of writing it. Remember that nothing lasts forever. It's only a temporary thing. It will be handed in, it will be over, and your hard work will pay off. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it's been kind of useful and I've not just freaked you out even more. Please feel free to like, subscribe or comment. Thank you for watching and goodbye.